chair. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it the same?
Oh, yeah, that's Kate's.
Okay, call the meeting to order.
Sid,
Here.
Mears,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Benjamin present. Stand for the
And
pledge.
stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary Burkholder from Brookville is here. Have some stuff you want to discuss with us?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. We just wanted to remind the trustees that the fire contract with Brookville is up at the end of the year, so we'd like to start that discussion on that. We'd like to invite all of you on a convenient day to have a work session, and the fire chief has offered possibly having that at the new fire station, so I don't have any dates in mind now. We just really wanted to make those few brief comments, and we can get with you as well as the fiscal officer and see what works for all of you, but we'd rather get started earlier rather than later, and it's a 2-year contract, so you have to answer any questions if I may.
You'll let us know when that's scheduled, the work sessions.
Well, we'll work with you to see what dates work for you,
Okay.
and
Okay.
we probably have to have a special announcement if we have it
Okay.
at the fire station, but we got plenty of room there in the training room, and we certainly would invite everyone, all the citizens from Perry as well to come and attend to that public meeting. So we'll get some dates down to you and see what works best for all of you, so, and I appreciate the time here tonight.
We had a 2-year one. Is that what you said last?
I believe it was a 2-year.
I just trying to refresh that.
Right, so I did not bring a copy of that contract. I take it you probably have it on file, right? So we'll be reviewing it as well, and I've already informed the council that it's the same with Clay also, so the fire chief and the finance director attended there last night, and then I want to come down tonight and at least make everyone aware.
Righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then John Bell.
Yes, sir. I brought some information for you folks to have. I came tonight because I stopped and spoke with a couple of your, oh, you've got one.
Thank you.
We've seen each other. Spoke with a couple of folks from your township. I understand that you guys had an aggregation on your last ballot for electricity, and that it was voted down. I work as an independent electric broker. I'm from over in Preble County. Is it all right if I stand?
Sure.
And so I don't work for any of the companies that that administer and sell the supply for electric aggregations and electric supply, but rather I work as a broker, and I liken what I do to that of an independent insurance agent, only I affect electric supply and natural gas supply. And probably the aggregation that I work that's the closest in proximity to you now is the village of New Paris, Ohio. And when I came along for the village of New Paris's most recent aggregation, they were paying 6.83 cents under contract, and when it expired in a higher wholesale market of the electric product, I was able to cut 20% out of that. They're now on a 5.6 cent aggregation across their entire village. And so I came here tonight to stand before you as a group of trustees to find out, A, do you still have any interest in trying to affect an aggregation for your township? And could I be of assistance to you in some way? Because I believe that aggregation is very helpful for the people in an area. It's just oftentimes it's very misunderstood.
When you say assistance, what do you mean?
Well,
Like, you want us to put it on the ballot again, or
so
just?
you guys put it on the ballot before. I don't know who you did it with or who's urging you did that, or if you did it on your own. I don't know much about your scenario at this point, so I came to find a little bit of that out. Came to find out when the next ballot is going to be for you guys. I'm assuming it'll be May, or a November ballot is the way that works. And just to see if I can help you identify some times to put it on there, and identify some town hall opportunities here, maybe with some of the folks in your township that may be opposing to it. I know in New Paris, they already had an aggregation in place that had been voted for, but they still had a lot of people that were against aggregation. And so I got an opportunity through their social media this time to just put myself out there for abuse, to the point where the people finally went, you know what? This guy's put himself out here so that we could take all the shots we wanted to out at him. And at this point, a lot of the people that were against the aggregation that opted out of it, because there's two kinds. There's opt-in or there's opt-out in the state of Ohio. Many of them are coming to the village of New Paris at this point going, can I get that guy's phone number so I can opt into this thing, because the electric's gotten expensive on them now. And so I'm doing everything I can to help those people get into that aggregation 6 months after the fact. And so I'd like to be able to see if I can help you do the same thing. I mean, I get paid for it, there's no question about that, it's my profession. But at the same time, I'm pretty effective, and because I live in a neighboring county, I'm readily available for you guys anytime you want to. If somebody's got a question, they can call me directly on the phone, I'll speak directly to them and try and help them. I think there's some things that we could do together that would help that, and it wouldn't be at any cost to you as a township to do it.
Do you normally hold an information session prior to putting it on?
Absolutely. And I'll hold as many of them as are necessary. I mean, I don't have any problem getting out and working the street, the people that are really against it, because oftentimes it's very misunderstood. And to be quite honest with you, I worked as a supply national account sales manager for a large company, and there's a lot of treachery and a lot of underhanded things that those companies do that have caused people to not trust those situations. And I left them for the opportunity to sell the product without having to do it with the degrees of treachery in it that most of those big companies have before. Now, I sell the big company product, but I have control of the profit margin that goes on the end result. So like with the village of New Paris, and I'm very transparent about it too. I mean, there's no secrets for me, and that's the other thing. Most of the guys that you'll have come in here to talk to you about aggregation won't be as transparent. So on the village of New Paris's aggregation, the wholesale rate on that thing was 5.1 cents per kilowatt hour, and I make 0.5 of a penny per kilowatt hour that's sold in the village. And so their final aggregation was 5.6 cents. But again, it was in a higher wholesale market. It was it was right at 18% cheaper than what they paid before as a village. And they were going into their second round of aggregation. I know that you guys haven't had an aggregation yet, but I also have the experience with the companies that I deal with that facilitate aggregation to help you go through the process.
You mentioned you were from Preble County,
Yes, sir.
so it happens my electricity comes from Preble County. And
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, being, if you did an aggregation here, would it, and the way I know, or the way just the other night, there was an accident at West Alexandria, and then put me out of power, and I called in just to see if they knew. They said, well, it's not actually in the New Lebanon. There's an accident at West Alexandria that's got the power out. So I don't know how that would work. I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, so your electricity doesn't actually come from Preble County, but it's wired on the grid to make its way back to you through Preble County.
Well, yeah,
We're part of what's called the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States as far as electric grids go. And our electric grid is operated by a company that's called PJM. It was a conglomerated company started by the states of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland. And they're the grid operator for our entire grid. And there's been some things that happened in Ohio as far as electricity goes that are going to cause our supply rates here to go up for the same exact reasons that they have in Illinois for the last 24 months. 24 months ago, the state of Illinois, their electric rates were very similar to what ours are right now in the marketplace. And today they're anywhere from 7.4 to about 8.2 cents per kilowatt hour. In our marketplace right now, the electric is anywhere from 4.9 cents up to about 6.2. And so those things that are going to affect our electric supply are going to affect all the residents of your township here. And I just think aggregation is a good way to protect them from the first. If we get an aggregation going here in your township and we can secure something that gets those people secured in a 5.6 to a 6.2 range electric cost as this electric climbs out over the next couple years, I also have reason to believe that the electric rates are going to come back down. And I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say that I'm going to shield your residents from that, but we may have the opportunity to shield them from a significant part of it. And when you get an electric bill now, there's PJM manufactures the electricity. And when you pay 5 cents for your electric, today I just pulled the rate up. PJM produced that power for 2.2 cents in the Dayton Power and Light marketplace. But then they have an element of your electric cost that's called a capacity and transmission cost. And that capacity and transmission cost is the amount of money that it costs for them to generate electricity in the high use parts of the year. Okay, where everybody's air conditioner is running. Companies like Dayton Power and Light don't actually make your power anymore. The majority, I shouldn't say they don't make your power, but they don't make the majority of your power. The majority of your power is made in Canada and pumped down here from PJM. Dayton Power and Light, Duke Energy, utility companies like that manufacture power along the Ohio River and in different power station areas. They manufacture that power and they sell it back to the PJM grid, just like if you had a solar system or a wind system like Dole's do, where they sell power back onto the grid. So they sell power back to the grid during the part of the year where the capacity's high. And that capacity element this year went from $75 per 1,000 kilowatt hours to $165.13 per 1,000 kilowatt hours in the Dayton Power and Light area. Well, right now at $75, that only makes up 1.1 cent of a 5 cent electric rate. But when it doubles, it's going to make up about 2.1 cents of a 5 cent electric rate. And so you see where that capacity portion of a bill is going to have the opportunity to raise the electric rates up on the people in your township over the next couple of years. And it's inevitable. So my thoughts for you guys are that if you have an interest in exploring this, I'd like to do it with you.
when you mentioned the solar fields and so forth, that's becoming a like more common thing. Is that, I mean, how's that affecting all this, or don't it, or?
Well, it will eventually, but one of the reasons that that capacity rate went up like it did is because so many of our utility companies, the DP&Ls, the Dukes, the ComEds, the AEPs in Ohio, they had antiquated or outdated coal burning facilities that the coal industry just couldn't support anymore cost effectively, so they shut those down. And they didn't have all of the natural gas turbine burners in place that they thought they would. They didn't have as much wind, they didn't have as much solar in place as they thought they'd have. And as a result, when they did this in Illinois, it caused their electric rates to go up. And it's, you can go home tonight and get on the internet and look and see where last June, they talked about the capacity market in the largest electric market, one of the largest electric markets in the United States, going up. And that's the Mid-Atlantic Power Grid. You'll find it all over the place if you look for it.
Question.
Yes, ma'am?
How does this work? The aggregation thing came on the ballot, and I don't remember receiving a whole lot of information previous to that as far as like, were there bids from various brokers to compete for, to be the supplier of the to be the head of the aggregation? Or are there bids from you and another company and these brokers?
That's a good question, because I don't know that
Did it come
answer.
together in a bid format to the trustees, and everybody has to compete and have to be very clear about what the fees are, the contract, the duration of the contract, the final cost per kilowatt to the consumer? The aggregation ballot, I thought, was a little vague and a little prompt. I didn't get a whole lot of pre-information about that in the mail, or I'd like to know more about that, and I would like to see some competition from brokers such as yourself. We own a business where people always approach us to try to resell us our electricity at a cheaper rate, and sometimes we go for it, and sometimes we stick with who we have from year to year. So I would like to see the bids come in to you folks and the
Well,
final costs and
the
the
last
details.
gentleman who
work.
came in, kind of like you, who made the proposition, he was here, and then he went to Clay, and Clay put it on. And so, and when you said about the price, he said he'll never be able to quote you the price because of it going up and down. Is that correct?
So,
There are so many unknowns.
Right.
well, there are several unknowns, and I'll give you, for instance, with the Village of New Paris. So, when we did the Village of New Paris last year, their original aggregation, they had 617 electric meters in the village, and they only had 205 participants in the original aggregation. Because in the state of Ohio, they give you the ability to opt in or to opt out. And your township trustees or your village council people would decide, do we want to try and do an opt-in or an opt-out? Well, they did an opt-out where everybody got a letter from the supplier that was chosen. And what happens in the end of that thing is that, so for them, the gentleman who came for you guys before, was he a broker or did he work for a company?
Company was
Travail.
Say that again.
Travail.
Trebell, okay, yeah. So, one of the things that happens with the guys that work for a company is that they ride for a specific brand, and they're obligated to that brand. In my situation, I'm not obligated to the brand, so I go out with permission of your township to get bids from 25 or 30 of the largest suppliers in the country to bid on.
And that's what he did.
And that's what he did too,
Yes.
so he was a broker as well.
He didn't just, it was just one. He searched for the lowest one.
But here's what happens, when you do the original aggregation in a township like this, what they do is you guys vote on it, and they look at it and they say, okay, there were 1,000, you guys help me out, there were roughly 1,000 voters that we talked about that voted on the last one, is that?
I could,
I think
1,300, I think, approximately.
Okay, So they look at the size of the township, they look at the number of people that actually voted on it, and they try and make some assessments based on how many people voted for the aggregation as to how many people they think would actually participate in the aggregation. It's usually all the people that voted for it, and then a limited percentage of the people who didn't. Okay, so, and then what they do is they say, okay, the average household uses, in a rural township like this, uses about 970 kilowatt hours of electricity a month. So they take that 970 kilowatt hours of electricity, they try and calculate the number of people that they think will participate, and they send it out to the supply companies. So the reason that it seemed vague in defense of it is that there's no way for them to tell you what the price of the electricity is gonna be until they understand how big the buyer group may or may not be. So like this last time when we priced the village in New Paris, I ended up with 469 of the residents in New Paris participated in the aggregation this time versus, and I think it was 225 originally, or 205 originally. And so I ended up with a much larger participation this time, but it was just because of communication and getting face to face with people and giving them the opportunity to poke holes in it and hit me over the head and do whatever they had to do to feel good about what the end result was.
You're basically like when I had an insurance agent who, he was an independent insurance agent, and for one car, he might say, well, Wayne Mutual is your best choice for this car, and then now you
Right.
added another car, this type of car, and now we're gonna switch you up to,
And that's how it works kind of
Central
with
or
the
something like
aggregation.
that.
But it's always gonna be kind of vague before you get into the first one, but it doesn't obligate you to anything. And that's the thing that the people need to understand is that voting for one doesn't obligate them to take it when the time
well,
comes.
how often do you get to choose to opt out? If after a year you decide it's not beneficial, you can opt out. I mean, how long is the consumer locked into it?
So typically what happens is once a village votes on an aggregation to come in, or a township votes on an aggregation to come in, what ends up happening with it is they, the village's council or the township's trustees sit down and they review several of the offers that exist, because once you vote for it as a community, then they make the decision at their chair which set of offers they're gonna take at that point. And so then you get a letter from whoever the supplier will be at that point that they've elected to have with the time frame, and it'll notify you that the villages, or that the township rather in this case, is elected to participate in one, whether it's opt-in or opt-out, what the dollar amount's gonna be, and you're not obligated to take it. If you get it and you don't like it, you think you can do better for yourself at the time, you simply return the portion of their letter that says, I don't want to be a part of this, and nothing ever changes for you. And they send you postage paid,
Well, I would
response
want to see-
letter.
I would want to see like, after how many years you reevaluate and you decide, you know, because, so in case they decide that maybe being locked into one broker, you know, in other words, how many years go by before you reconsider other brokers' offers and competition?
Typically
and that
2 to
kind of
3.
thing?
And the reason for it is, or the reason that I think it's healthy, the reason that I promoted it to 2 to 3, is because when you look at the cycles of electric costs, where they go up, where they start up, and then where they trend down, and where you identify the highs and lows in those trends, is those windows are usually somewhere between 30 and 42 months. And so you don't want to have somebody in one so long that they miss the opportunity to get the electric at a reasonable price. And you don't want to have somebody in one for such a short amount of time
They don't see the benefit.
that they don't see the benefit of it on that end either.
I have a
And-
question.
And I apologize because I didn't come to take over your meeting
Right,
tonight,
right,
so, but go ahead.
I just have quick questions. Just hypothetically, if we go with the aggregation and a company is chosen that is not Dayton Power and Light.
Right.
Right now, all of the poles in the area are owned by Dayton Power and Light. So is there going to be a surcharge on an electrical supplier to either use those poles,
No.
or will there be some implementation of putting
No,
in new poles and who
you're-
absorbs those costs?
So presently, if you don't have a supplier on your bill, okay, if you get a Dayton Power and Light electricity bill. And when you have a supplier on your bill, you'll still get a Dayton Power and Light bill. It's just that there's two sections of the Dayton Power and Light bill, and there's two sections of every utility bill in the state of Ohio now that we're a deregulated supply state. And one section says the delivery amount you had this month, and the other section says the supply amount you had this month. And one is all for Dayton Power and Light's operation of the poles and all the hardware that exists in your township. And the other one is for the supply. And that's the only part that an aggregation would affect, is the supply. So when you flip your bill over, if you chose the aggregation, whoever the aggregator is, their name would be back there, and it would show what they billed every month, but it's administrated by Dayton Power and Light still. Like over in New Paris, their aggregator is a company called Dynegy. They're based out of Cincinnati. And so when those residents of New Paris flip their bill over, now it says Dynegy Energy on the back of it is who supplied the actual electric. Dayton Power and Light's who delivers.
But Dayton Power and Light wouldn't be charging a surcharge for someone else's supply?
Absolutely not. They, in a deregulated state like ours, those utility companies are paid to deliver the utility, not to produce it, and not to charge for the supply.
And one more thing, no, I would just like to see more pre-mailing and more information being sent to the households that give us a little more detail about ballot issues coming up instead of just like,
Did you not receive anything last time? Because Tri-Bill, they
No.
had
They were
several.
doing it all.
Yeah, they had 2 or 3 meetings and they supposedly mailed out postcards.
Email.
We didn't see
Is that
anything.
it?
3
Did-
mailings.
Yeah, they
I
had 3
don't get a
mailings.
whole
There was
lot
stuff in
until
there.
real close to.
I guess the
Voting
question that was
time.
asked to me, and I'll ask it, people said, why did we choose Tri-Bill, or why did we choose you, or why did we choose XYZ company out here? How do we know what one is the best?
Well,
I don't know.
I would say if I had to guess, and you stop me where I'm wrong, but you guys didn't choose Tri-Bill. They came to you and approached you about it. And the interesting thing is that there's a lot of competition out there for your business. But it's a lazy sales force. That's the only way I know to say it. And so for the most part, you're only going to get approached by 1 or 2 at a time, because they're all hunting and pecking around in such a broad, vast area to accumulate customers that really, if you want to have multiples in competition at the same time, once you talk to one, like I would suggest to you, I'd like to revisit this with you guys as a township, but I'd also encourage you to ask him to participate in it too. When I'm faced with the competition, because all that does is reduce the amount of profit margin that a broker is able to collect off of it, and it reduces the price of the electricity. The competition's good for you.
Is that something we can take and have them back?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's. I'm just trying to think how the people asked the question, that the other thing that was asked, there's something like, you have Dayton Power and Light, and then you have DP&L Energy, I think.
So
Is that an aggregation? I guess that's.
No, DP&L Energy was a company that Dayton Power and Light started because they were losing so many of their customers from the supply side. Because they can still be your electric supplier, there's no question about it. But there's limits in the state of Ohio on how they can behave as a supplier because of the deregulation. So they started DP&L Energy as a division of Dayton Power and Light to be able to sell electric supply. But it didn't take them very long to figure out that they didn't really want to be a part of that portion of the industry anymore, and they sold that to a company called IGS. And so DP&L Energy doesn't exist anymore unless you already had an existing contract with them, and you still get a bill that says DP&L Energy on it, but it's owned and operated by IGS.
And I mean, at the meeting, you know, people could ask that, but that was a question, I don't know that apparently, I don't remember if it was asked or not. It was a very good meeting, I mean, I was at it, and it was.
I personally have an interest in this.
Yeah,
But I also understand that I'm quite ignorant. And so the more information we can get as a community,
Yeah.
I think the better off we're gonna be. So if we could schedule some things, as informational meetings or
Yeah.
you know, mailings or whatever it could be, I'd like to investigate this a little further, but it is something I'm interested in. Anything that saves me money, I'm in for it.
The thing of it is that generally the people are let me go back to this. The Public Utility Commission of Ohio allows a lot of things to happen that are not in the best interest of us, the citizens. And I buy electric just like you do, and I don't get I buy it through a supplier same way, and I don't affect single residential meters in any way, shape, or form. I sell business and commercial electric, and I do aggregated residential, so large numbers of residences at a time. And our Public Utility Commission allows a lot of underhanded things to happen. And I'll give you, for instance, if you walk through the Walmart in Eaton. Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like you have a lot of information.
Yeah.
Why don't you arrange a time to come back
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
please.
let us know
I-
about it?
Go ahead
Because,
with what you were saying.
but the Public Utility of Commission, let me back up. I was talking about the Walmart in Eaton. The Walmart in Eaton has a guy that stands there in the aisle and says, hey, I want to talk to you about your electricity. And that guy will sell you electricity at a real low rate for 3 months, but after 3 months, that rate jumps up to 11, 12, 13 cents per kilowatt hour. And so with what we do is we come in, we fix the rate, it never jumps around, it always is what we agreed that the rate was gonna be. It's very simplified for you to understand, and we try and take a lot of that treachery out of it for you. I mean, I say I myself try to find suppliers and supply terms and agreements that take all that away from the process. And so I came here tonight to ask if I could have you guys try and move forward on this, find out who I would talk to as a point of contact as we move forward with it, and see if I can help you out as a township trustee group and the people that are in your township.
Well, I think it's something we should look into for sure. And,
I think it would be interesting to get a couple of them together, like maybe bring the Tri-Bill guy back out and have them both talk to us.
well, he just said competition's the key to this thing, and I think that's
Yeah,
a really
exactly.
good idea.
Yeah.
But I know this, risk takers are the ones that win. And I know that change is difficult, and a lot of people don't want to change what's going on because they've had it so long, and they're full of fear about it. And I'm not one of those people. I'm willing to take the risk and take it, that leap of faith that people talk so vaguely about. But I appreciate you coming, and I really think that it's a good idea that we look into this. And I agree with Missy that competition's a wonderful thing, so I'll tell you what, why don't we make Missy the contact person for this?
Oh, I got roped into that, didn't I?
I second it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then I'll contact you during business hours
That'd be great.
sometime, and we'll see how to go forward.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for your
Thank
time.
you, John. I
I apologize for
appreciate it.
taking so much time.
answering.
Anything else this time? Okay, the minutes from the December 31st year-end meeting.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from December 31st, 2018.
That's it.
Mears,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Sim.
Yes. Okay, accept the minutes from the reorganization meeting of December 31st.
Is that a motion?
No, I'm moving, this is the next item. Yeah, I'll make that motion, we accept it.
Second.
Sim,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept to pay the bills from check number 33976 to 3403. All approved.
Second.
Mears,
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Sim,
Yes. Approve this supplemental appropriations for the estimated resources for year end.
that was a motion.
And the $50 light fee, the grant, handicap grant and the light fee, yes, that's a motion.
Second.
Sim,
Yes.
Mears.
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Okay. The Social Security line appropriation.
That was not included at the reorganization
Oh.
meeting.
Okay.
Our appropriations needs to be added.
Okay. So motion to approve.
A second.
Sim,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Mears.
Yes.
And then I'll take the 1,200 from the PERS and do a supplemental appropriation and put it in the Social Security appropriated line.
So you need
Motion.
a motion to, yeah. To I also move that we make that, a motion to move that appropriation.
Second.
Sim,
Yes.
Mears.
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
I emailed the New Lebanon and Brooklyn Fire and EMS reports. They're up here if any of the residents would like to view them after the meeting, plus all the payment of bills that was in your information packet there. We received the money from the mini flow shared revenue from New Lebanon, $517.59. The TAC meeting is scheduled for January 17th. Mr. Price, you're on that board if you'd like to attend. The Miami Valley Regional Spring Dinner is April 18th. 2019 is open, closing 2018 year-end begins this week. 941s, remember, are paid semi-weekly. So for the first payroll in 19, I made the payment today, which is due tomorrow. Also, starting to work on the year-end and the bank reconciliation. There's a check that cleared the bank, but is not listed in my UAN software. So doing some research, it is Officer Stephen Nelson, August 17th of 2017, issued him his payroll check. December 17, he had not cashed it. I had informed him. I have the note that he said apparently he had lost it, reissued another check. It is signed and dated by Officer Nelson. It is approved by Chief Reinhardt on 12/5 of 17. I issued him another check, 12/26 of 17. Here's a stop order from the bank. He must have found the check and he cashed it again. So how do you want me to go about getting that money back?
Underpaid.
You have time to return the money.
All right, we'll do. I'll get with Chief Littleton and him and I
So
will
the
talk.
check is August of 17?
August 2017 was a payroll check. In December of 17, he had not cashed it. I was in contact with him. He then typed up a note here and put it in my drawer. I said, this is a check that I thought I had cashed, but obviously did not. I have no idea where the check is and may have accidentally shredded it. Please reissue a check for the above amount and cancel the old one just in case. And here's the stop payment at the bank, and here's the new stub with the new reissued check. Here's the timesheet and the first check, if you want that as well.
The fee was $439.89.
That was the amount of his check.
How much did it cost to stop it?
They don't charge us a stop payment fee. I did call the bank today. The stop payment is only good for 6 months. I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if we should have it put on our checks, that they're void after 90 days or something like that. A lot of agencies do that.
There's still no guarantee though.
Well, if the bank cases it after that point, that's,
Because they're not processing them anymore in person. They said that it just depends on if somebody catches it. Because everything's done electronically, the banks won't guarantee that it won't still cash.
Okay.
That's probably true, because I
So he cashed a check that was 6 months old?
Over a
Year
year.
and a half old.
August 2017.
And he cashed the new one, so he cashed
He's
two
been
of
paid
them.
twice, yeah.
So wouldn't that be like check fraud? I mean, if you're cashing 2 checks and you know better,
Or it could just be a mistake. I don't like to indict anybody. Unless they need it.
Hard. We'll have those pay it back.
cheap lunch.
yeah. It's not a mistake.
is that your recommendation or thought?
I didn't hear.
To pay it back, is that your recommendation or thought? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to bring it to your
I got a
attention.
question. He cashed the first check that was supposedly lost?
No, he lost the first check.
Lost.
Okay.
I put a
And then
stop
he-
payment on it and reissued a second check. He
Right.
cashed the second check. December of 18, a year and 4 months later, he cashed the first check, but he must have just found.
So we didn't lose anything on interest.
And that's all I have, my report.
You did attend the auditor's meeting in December.
Yes.
Okay, go with road and cemetery.
We're on the road, dealing with some high water, tree limbs. Hopefully tonight's not another night of that. Shop, we're going through the 1991 10-ton equipment trailer. Bring it back and put new DOT tape along the sides and everything, bring it up to DOT specs. 1 ton's back from Cobb Barber's new salt spreader on it. Cemetery, still on graves, picking up tree limbs, comparing cemetery prices for the new year with other cemeteries around the area. Getting info together on a possible cemetery grant, so I'm working on that. Other than that, just dealing with the mud and the rain.
Any overtime work this morning?
Not this past page. Yeah, we did because of high water. Had to come out 6 o'clock, New Year's Eve night because of the high water at 6 o'clock. So we was out.
You were also out close to midnight.
Yeah,
that night,
11
because
o'clock.
You called me and
Tree-
said there was a
tree
tree
limb.
down over the road. So,
When you guys work overtime, do you ever just not work, just work that, from the time you start, just work an 8-hour shift and not work your regular shift?
Work regular shift.
Is there a reason why you have to do that?
That's my work hours is 7 to 4 or 3:30, and I'm on call 24/7, 7 days a week. So I work, you know, if I work half the night because of snow and work all day, that's my work day. That's in the policy handbook is my work hours.
Mike, what have you heard about that cemetery grant? Do you know anything about that?
Not much. I'm just getting into the basis of it, and hopefully it's passed in the House bill's passed.
It's House Bill 168, yes.
And I'm just gathering information as far as what it could be used for and how to go about getting it.
Okay. The reason I ask is I wanted to know if we could circumvent putting that into the grant that we got for the ramp out here and things like that. If we can do that, it'd be a separate grant, we'd save money that way.
Well, okay, well, I don't know if they'll combine or not, or they have to be separate, so.
Well, I
I'll check.
can work it out that way.
Right.
I'm working with Tawana on that thing, so I might be able to work it out to where we get it in this grant, but we don't want to exhaust the money from the grant for the ramp out here. We have cemetery grant coming.
Right.
Okay.
That'll be all.
Okay.
If that grant passes, can you cut that dead tree down that looks like Groot?
Where at?
On the cemetery.
Which
Right
one?
there by the road.
Which cemetery?
It's got the one arm.
What cemetery?
On Sulphur Springs.
Piermont.
Yeah. Well, there's a story behind that tree. There's a lady that comes there every year and has a picture taken with her family.
Is that
Been
right?
doing that for years.
Well, then leave it be.
Well, I understand that, and that's the reason why it isn't taken down.
Yeah.
Simple fact, it's gonna have to come down. It will. But, the lady, like I said, they come every year to, Piermont, and then they take a picture, family picture in front of that tree.
Well, there you go.
It's one of them things, sometimes there's a lot more behind things, the reason they happen than.
Absolutely.
That's it, yeah. Okay. All you had then, Mike?
Yep.
Okay, zone.
The new office hours started yesterday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 1 to 5, Thursday, Friday, 9 to 1. The office will be closed on Monday, January 21st for Martin Luther King Day. There's gonna be a zoning commission meeting scheduled here for, the 17th at 7 p.m. I think that date's right. It's the third Thursday of the month. I think that's right. There's a vacancy on the BZA board. I presented 2 interested candidates at the last meeting, so we need the trustees to pick from somebody to fill that position. And the 2019 permit fees are still under review by the trustees, if they're gonna raise any of the fees or not. That's it.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. Brown. That opening.
Motion to appoint Mr. Brown to the BZA opening. Second.
Price,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Sim.
Yes. You got some of them fees you're gonna look at after you have a.
Zoning commission
Or
meeting.
commission meeting, right?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. Is that all you have then, Kate? for
Yes, that's all.
The trash bills are due in.
Oh, the trash bills have gone out, to avoid the late fee, they have to be paid by the 1st of February. The payments are coming in.
Yeah. Just, it's a reminder.
Yeah.
Okay. Police department.
Car D, which is our Ford Expedition, one of the older cruisers. It's sitting over at the Bo Townsend Ford in Vandalia to get the front door repair from where it was sideswiped in Brookville. One of our other cruisers was taken back to K.E. Rose in Huber Heights to be upfitted for the K-9. It'll be ready at the end of this month. Still replacing some of our older equipment or equipment that's outdated. Still got new equipment coming in for that. I have a total of 6 applicants that are moving further into our hiring process. My goal is to have some people through this process and hired and working at least by the end of February, starting 1st of March. The police department has a new website, as I mentioned at the last meeting. That website is up and running and it is updated. You could go onto our website and follow the upcoming events that we have. There's going to be a calendar on there that will have those dates and everything. The next big event that we're having is the Easter egg hunt this year. The community relations plan, I know I spoke back in November that I was working on that plan. That plan has been published to the website, so you can go on to the Perry Township, twppolice.org, and we'll go in there underneath the link, and there's a link that says community relations plan. Keep in mind that that plan, those are just suggestions and ideas that the department can host different events. You'll see in there like coffee and cop, coffee and donuts with the cop, car show. So all that stuff is open, even if you guys want to come to one of our neighborhood watch meetings at things, and you have your own ideas about what events that you guys would like to see is for the community. So that's all subject to change. But I put all that out there, and I threw that out there on the website, so that way everybody in the community can see at least what direction that the department's wanting to go ahead with community policing and getting the community involved.
What's that website again?
It's Perry, TWP, then the word police.org.
Okay.
You're welcome. Since the first of the year, we've handled 7 calls, ranging from just simple house alarms that's gone off to breaking and entering, suspicious vehicles with guys out here late at night sitting on Old Dayton and on Little Richmond. Had an individual that was high on LSD. The call came out as just as a disorderly individual, but once the officer got on scene and started evaluating everything, it was determined that he was on LSD, and later on he even admitted to taking that. So tonight, I was running a little bit late, had a juvenile that was needing some mental help and everything, so I was over dealing with that and everything. So just
I got a question. So we're getting a K-9 for Perry Township?
Yep.
Already got it.
You got it. And I'm assuming it was paid for through the,
Cost $1.
$1 a
cost
year.
$1?
A year.
Well, that's a deal.
Yeah, this was Mr. Littleton's, Chief Littleton's private dog, who has training. He's got 2 of them. Why don't you tell us about that?
So I have 2 canines. Both, the one I'm currently getting certified here in the state. Once he's certified, he'll be certified to do narcotic detection. That's marijuana, crack, cocaine, heroin, meth, that he'll be able to detect the odors of. He's also going to be trained in article searches. So if somebody, let's say, takes off running from us, or they throw a knife or something out of the car, anything that you could think of, he can track that down. He could track the human odor, the scent. If you take off on foot running from us, he'll be able to track you for that. room clearing or building clearing. You know, say if you call in and you got somebody that's barricaded up in your house, he's trained that he can go in and apprehend that person. He's not only a good benefit for Perry Township, but also the surrounding agencies out here and the surrounding communities. The second dog that I have, he's certified only in narcotic detection. He doesn't do anything else. I wanted to be a canine handler ever since I got into law enforcement, and instead of waiting for somebody to give me that opportunity, I purchased my dog and I took that bull by the horns and I paved my own way with it. He's been certified in the state for a couple of years now. We're using him for different departments. We've done a lot of interdiction work with OSBs.
Does he have a vest?
What's that?
Does he have a bulletproof vest?
He does.
Okay.
Good question. Just for point of clarification, who was the trainer?
Steve Dunham. He's
Okay. Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been better.
So we
trained my dogs years ago.
Oh, yeah. We go down to, we see him at least 3 days a week. Right now, the certification date is set for mid-February. So.
Good. Could be
So I
here.
think we were greatly enhanced by not only getting a new chief and a good one, and getting 2 dogs for the price of $1 a year. I think that was very gracious on Tim's part.
I was just thinking, Perry Township's small, and there ain't a whole lot that goes on. It don't seem like, because I know those dogs are expensive, then you gotta keep them and take care of them, and they're not cheap, so.
No, they're not cheap.
They're
The
not
one
cheap
dog
at
I
all.
have,
So I was just wondering if that was justifiable to have a dog in a small community. Didn't seem like, but if
It
it's
would
$1
be if you
a
did.
year, you can't beat that.
Well, for child's
That-
law
Taxes
argument,
paid, dollar a year police
yeah,
officer.
the $1 a year, you have to have, when you're contracting with something, you gotta have a dollar amount for insurance to cover it. That's where the $1 a year comes in. The township is not responsible for any medical bills that the dog accrues, unless if he gets killed in the line of duty or something, but even then, I wouldn't hold, the township,
I'm not saying it's a.
No,
I think
no, but
good
it's a
thing
good
that
point.
There's a dog here. It's just a small community.
it's
Yeah,
not
you
the
have-
first one
You'd
we've
be
ever had.
surprised how much.
We've had
Oh,
one.
really?
there's a lot of drug activity out here.
More than
Yeah.
I want to admit.
People use, Old Dayton and Little Richmond all the time to go from Trotwood to Preble County and back.
And can you use it for like an older person, like someone like who
Yeah,
has like
it-
dementia that gets
Or a
lost in the
child gets
cornfield?
lost in a cornfield, I mean.
So here's the great thing, your body sheds about 150,000 skin cells every minute. So that's what the dog is picking up on. If you take off running through the grass, right, when the dog's smelling, or sniffing rather, what he's sniffing is something equivalent to what we smell when we drive down the road after somebody cuts the grass. You got that fresh, like, oh my goodness, somebody just cut grass. That's what he smells because of the oil and everything that's being broken up in the blades of grass. When you're hiding in a building, or we're coming into the house and trying to locate you, you give out an odor when your adrenaline's going and you're scared and everything else. That's the odor that he's picking up on. So the question I get a lot is, well, do you have to give him my known scent for him to come and find me? No, and he don't, because that's what he's smelling. Is what those things right there. So
Has he got a hot nose or a cold nose?
This dog loves to work. He's very spot on when it comes to tracking and everything. So
He's got a good nose on him?
he does.
You had mentioned training, is it 3 days a week?
Mm-hmm.
Was that all part of the $1 a year?
Yep.
Okay. Did you know approximate cost of the outfitting of the car for the dog?
I'd have to get that invoice for you.
Is that just one car or all the cars?
Just one.
Are we offsetting feed and veterinary expenses?
Yep. The township doesn't.
The township is not
No,
offsetting those.
is not paying those. I take care of everything, and the reason I do that is because, you guys, follow any law enforcement related things on Facebook. When a canine handler leaves a department, there's always this, uproar about the dog not being able to go with them. Yes, these guys are dogs, and some people say they're pets, and not. But you really develop a very strong bond with this dog. And it's just through all the training, you know, you're relying on him, he's relying on you. So, you know, I was bound to, like I said, I was bound to determine, one, to be a canine handler. But two, I didn't want somebody else to have the rights over my dog. And, you know, so that's why, you know, purchasing the dog myself, the township doesn't own any rights to that dog. They're not responsible for the dog food or the vet bills or, you know, the training or anything like that. So I take care of all that, just to make sure that the dog's covered on insurance purposes. It's $1 a year.
40-some children met him when Santa Claus was
Yeah.
there. I mean, he's just right there amongst the kids, and the kids, oh yeah, a couple was, you know, dog fearful or what, but they, I mean, most of them loved him. And the
Yeah.
dog was just right there, loving it too. So, yeah.
I'm glad to hear we're losing
So
all
you
these
get
skin
no
cells.
benefit from bringing a dog?
I don't want the benefit. I didn't get into
I
law
mean,
enforcement.
that's
to-
just your
to make-
passion and that's
Yeah.
what you wanna do? That's cool.
And I get that a lot too, you know, people are like, well, what do you mean?
Right,
I don't need it.
It seemed like
We did
that's a
search
lot to
and
offer
rescue
to get
dogs
no
for
benefit
years.
from
It's
whatsoever.
intrinsic.
I do
Some
think that
people
you
are that
deserve some compensation for, at least in the manner of food, a feed. You know, that dog,
If we wanna donate
you know,
or.
but I think that, you know, what you've done is admirable, and I applaud you for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. We did the same thing with search and rescue dogs, that's why we never joined Task Force One.
Okay, exactly.
We owned our dogs.
'Cause we own our dogs.
And your dog, it's an intrinsic
Value.
value that you get.
I'm glad I'm losing all those skin cells, maybe I'll lose. More.
I did want to circle back. You had mentioned 6 applicants are currently in the process. Are those full-time, part-time?
Part-time for right now.
They're all part-time applicants?
Yep.
Okay. And the current, what's the current head count, full-time, part-time, in coverage for the township?
Well, right now, there's myself and 6 other officers.
And they're all part-time?
Those are part-time.
Okay.
I'm looking at 2 or 3 full-time positions. Again, I won't be able to fill that until at least March. And with the part-time, you know, if I can get, you know, all 6 of these guys through the process and everything, then that's 6 more that we have.
Right. So what's your target for full coverage of the township, between whether it's part-time, full-time?
We're gonna get back to a 24-hour patrol.
Right. So,
That's my goal.
so what's the head count for that, approximately?
Well, I got
How
3
many-
full-timers that I'm gonna need plus myself, and then maybe 15 part-timers.
Right.
So you're looking at about 20 officers as a whole.
Okay. I was just thinking 7 by 24, 365, only 3 full-time, that doesn't give you coverage 24/7 all through the year, right? 'Cause you
No,
have
it does.
leave vacations, stuff like that. So I'm just trying to figure out what because I had asked a couple months ago what the get well plan was. What's the target, what's the plan? So that's what I'm trying to get to. And so I'm asking the questions as you get the answers. Okay.
The more we can get, the better.
Yeah, oh, most definitely.
Yes.
Don't doubt that.
What process do you use to hire? You go out to job search engines, or how are you getting your resumes in?
People are sending me resumes daily.
So you don't have anything out there active? You know, we put ad in the Brookfield Star for your position, and I think Melissa's putting one in Indeed and maybe some other police publications.
Indeed.
You don't do that?
I haven't yet because like I said, I'm receiving these resumes daily. If it gets to the point where I go through these 6 applicants and none of them work out, then yeah, I'm gonna have to put something out there. But as of right now, I'm not having to because they're coming in steady. But I wanna give these guys a fair shake and everything before I bring, you know, other people into the application process. So I don't wanna waste anybody's time or anything of that nature.
What school are they mostly coming out of for, like, I guess it's criminal justice? Where are they coming from these days?
A lot of them are coming from Sinclair and Butler Tech.
Chief, can I add something on When the law enforcement students graduate from Sinclair, they're given a packet with different application processes for the local departments, and quite a few of them apply for the townships rather than like the city of Dayton or Vandalia or anything first, because they're smaller departments, kind of use it as a stepping stone. But he may not be soliciting for any applications, but the students just automatically send them in as they graduate.
Oh, me. Everybody wanted to know about the Perry Township webpage. I talked to Chief Littleton, and we're going to kind of piggyback off of their webpage, and I'm meeting with him, and we're going to set up that. So it won't cost us so much, so we're gonna get that done. And then, if you notice, I left you something in front that I kind of like to put on our agendas if we can make a motion, I guess, for the next meeting. Maybe put that at the bottom of our agendas.
Do you want to make that in the form of a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and read it, and I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, just what I've done is I've been to your meetings, and you all would do your meetings, and then you have question and answers, and then you have, a time limit. And I've checked, and I've been to other meetings, so on. So anyway, we'd like to pass out the agenda, but in the agenda, so at the bottom of the agenda, this note will be at the bottom. Please note, trustees welcome comments and input of the public in order to provide an orderly fashion in which all interest parties have the opportunity to address the trustees. The trustees have adopted the following procedure for citizens' comments. Any citizen who wishes to address the trustees or any department heads must sign in. When called upon, the citizen will state their name, address, and their comments. Citizens will be given a 5-minute time limit at the end of the meeting. All comments will be taken before a meeting is adjourned. The purpose of this procedure is to allow any citizen their input without any type of disruption of the trustees' proceeding. While a citizen is addressing the trustees request all audience members not make comments to trustees or to the individual speaking to prevent any confusing or disruption.
So moved.
Second.
Price,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Sim,
Yes. Okay. Do we have anything else this time?
Visitors.
Do you ask questions yet?
Yes.
Okay. This is a question I'd like to direct to the Chief Littleton, if I may. A few months back, there was a lady that rolled through the air into my field across from me. I live at 1020 Johnsville, Brookville Road, and she died. I talked to your predecessor, and I asked that the intersection be turned into a four-way stop, or at least some investigation be done. And he said that he was going to contact Montgomery County and see what could be done, and he's not here anymore.
Okay.
So I'll throw that
Mr.
same
Kraft,
question to you.
as a matter of fact, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Kraft and I have been talking about that, and he has contacted the gentleman from the county.
Good.
So we're still waiting. He's contacted him twice today and not got a return, so he's on it. He'll
Just
get
a
it.
couple days ago,
Yes.
I and Mr. Kraft was discussing this with some county guys. So it's still being looked at, worked on, I mean.
Then there's various options
Some
about what's
ideas.
gonna happen there. We don't know if it's gonna be a four-way stop.
What it is right now is totally unacceptable. It's the only light in the area.
In the
And
world.
people don't know what it is. People coming north and south on the blinking yellow stop. They don't know what it is.
And there's only one sign as you approach the intersection. I mean, there's one on the right-hand side. If you're going westbound on Old Dayton, there's one on the right-hand side, there's not one. Sometimes they're double.
Yep.
Same way going eastbound sometimes. And so that's all being looked at.
We've got options like rumble strips, we've got options like the blinking solar-powered lights.
The lights
We've
that
got
go around the signs.
four-way
like-
stop.
Almost like, I'll call them like Christmas lights.
There are a load of options, and we're looking at all those and seeing what can be done about that.
Good.
So we are on it, I know it kind of stalled there, but
Well,
we're,
it just,
yeah, but we're back on it.
Change in administration.
it's
Yes,
not all
yes.
from that, but it's some of it is back to the county.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta go on.
Just,
with
they
whatever
pick, I don't know what all research they're doing, but
Perry Township doesn't own that corner, does it?
No.
Montgomery County owns it.
Yes.
yeah, that's it.
So,
We can recommend or suggest and ask, but that's,
We can just try to build a fire under them for it, and that's it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Chief. Didn't mean to blindside you.
No.
and I think you heard a little about it.
Yeah, you guys, I heard you guys talk about it and stuff before.
Yeah, I mean, some of it.
Yeah, there was a young lady that died there. I used to work at that McDonald's in New Lebanon many years ago. And there was a young lady, barely had been graduated from high school, and a guy ran that intersection and killed her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was, I don't think she was 20 years old yet.
There's a number of them.
Yeah.
The last fatality, my wife and I were sitting at our dinner table. We heard the crash, we looked out the window and saw her cars rolling through the air.
Wow.
And we were obviously the first ones on scene. I watched the lady die.
It's tough.
I want to change that intersection. I don't want to watch any more deaths. I guess I'm being selfish, but
Well,
No. One too many is,
one's too many.
yeah.
I got a question. I know another intersection's super dangerous. I was just wondering if you guys own it or Montgomery County owns it. It's Air Hill and Clayton Road.
Hello.
That's where we live.
That's where I live and that's where I got hit.
Right. Well, if you're going, it would be eastbound on Air Hill Road, you go straight down that, I've seen people just go right through that sign across Wolf Creek. I mean, cause that hill right there seems like there should be another stop sign.
Particularly in the winter, that hill gets icy, you come across there, come across Clayton Road, and you slide right down that hill,
Yeah.
right into Air Hill, or right into,
Right into.
I've seen myself, at least 3 or 4 accidents almost happen there. And people get confused and stop. Some people stop, and there's not even a stop sign.
Actually, the, what do you call it, traffic safety, what do you call it, county traffic safety people, they review and do all that. We don't set any of that. As a
Right.
township, we make no
So that would be.
decision on it. We can suggest.
when I had my accident, after my accident, I approached the county about doing something about that area. And they came out, and they did a traffic study, and they determined, believe it or not, that there was nothing that needed to be done.
It wasn't dangerous.
It wasn't dangerous
I've heard
enough.
Well, it's just a matter of time somebody gets hurt there.
I think they actually said that same thing about Old Dayton from Johnsville at one time, that they thought some things could make it worse.
Right before.
And I mean, I don't know.
It's the same way on Clayton, or Wolf Creek and Providence. When you come.
I mean, that's 45 years ago, I had an uncle killed in that corner.
2 cars come one
I mean,
way.
so it's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I went by there the other day and it just kind of spooks me out.
You live, well, it's that goes on the good side of
We
it.
just got burned.
Across the street here next to the.
He's across the street.
Well.
The kids across the street. Rob's dead.
All right, we got a meeting.
So is there a venue for these folks to voice their concerns on the county level at a certain type of county meeting? Is that an option for these people?
Probably called county.
Cox used to be, is he involved anymore?
No, Alan Cox.
Alan Cox, is he?
Probably the best thing to do is either call down to the county engineers, 837-2528.
What is it?
837-2528.
Oh, I got that.
And then, or tell your concerns and they'll put you in touch with who you need to talk to.
Could we invite them out to a meeting? Do they do that?
We might.
It's not busy enough.
If it's okay with people here, I'll go ahead and contact Wolf on that and see what I can, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and if enough people talk to Wolf about that, maybe he can direct me to who I.
That might be Craig Norris.
Yeah, I don't think Walt will make that decision. I mean,
Yeah,
Walt will get no,
yeah,
like,
he'll put me
oh,
in touch with
yeah,
Walt.
no, yeah, but it'd be somebody,
they have a safety,
And then you'll
I
probably
forget what they
be
call, it, safety director or somebody.
directed downtown then, engineers, traffic
Okay, so
engineers.
here's what the deal is. You guys wanna pay attention back there, here's what the deal is.
Sorry.
I will contact the necessary people, I'll bring it to their attention, that intersection and this one, and I'm pretty good at not taking no for an answer, so I'll just keep after it until I get an answer one way or another. That's a promise.
After the meeting, I can let you know with their last survey.
Okay, excellent.
Actually, I mean, north of the intersection where you're speaking of, they did cut the hill down some ones. Thinking that would be and I don't know. Did it improve it? I don't know, maybe, I don't know. You know, I don't know if somebody has the statistics on that. Did the accidents reduce? I don't know. I mean, somebody should have that, I would think.
How would you gauge that?
I don't know, they just look at the number of accidents over a
Versus the
10-year
number.
period, I guess, versus the number prior to doing it, I guess, I don't know.
If they go by more traffic, well, obviously there's more traffic now, so you can expect more
That's true.
accidents. I don't know how they would
I
gauge
don't know
that.
either. I'm not sure, but
We'll see what they gotta say.
see what they say.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got some questions,
Okay.
a couple different areas. One of them was, what are we doing, how are we doing on our hits?
32.
32?
Yep,
And how many did we get off of Brookville Star that ran for 2 weeks?
3.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Is there one?
I think there is.
Oh, so that was my last count, sorry.
And what other publications are there?
Right now, that's the only one we did because of the outpour of how many we got. Because every day we're getting them in, so
Okay.
we just figured that,
Started reviewing those, look good, bad?
We have them in a folder. Miss Pinkham put them, and I don't know if you guys have, I've been looking at them. Yeah, whenever they
course.
come in, yeah.
Any interviews yet?
Oh, no, not until after we close it. We can interview until we close it.
So after 30 days, it'll be closed and then you'll start interviews?
Mhm.
Let's see. I agree with, Ron, I agree with your comment that competition is good, so it's good that we're going out. I think, did you guys get all your highway patrol report, crash report?
Mhm.
There was, last couple meetings, there's been some discussion that you guys didn't know why Littleton was charged for going through the intersection at 45 miles an hour downtown Dayton.
We really can't get into this.
Well,
Legally, we cannot get into
that's
this.
fine, but now you know what happened because you got the report. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We got a report.
Yeah, you sent it in, right?
Sent it in,
Okay.
it was available to you to get too. The accident happened on 11/20, and when were you charged?
I have to go back and look.
We really can't.
No,
We're not supposed
we're not gonna
to
discuss it.
any part of this. We're really not supposed to.
Well, you were charged prior to the,
Go to the next question.
Can I ask why you guys aren't allowed to discuss
Because
this?
it's a legal
No,
matter.
it's a legal matter. We
It's a
can't
legal
discuss
matter.
it.
Talk to the prosecutor. Ask him. I mean, it's,
Sometimes our hands are tied. This is one of those times. We're just not supposed to talk about this.
I can discuss what I understand to be true, is that correct? You don't have to
Well,
discuss it. But I,
If it's something that we don't want to discuss in open forum, which is what's been said by the prosecutor, then we want to quelch anything that's being said about this, because what we end up with is a bunch of hearsay. Somebody said that they got the report from Channel 7. Well, I don't trust Channel 7.
this isn't hearsay. You've got the report right in front of you.
The thing is, we are not supposed to discuss it. That means you and I and all the other people in this room are not supposed to discuss that, so we're not going to.
Ron, doesn't that fall under pending litigation?
Yes.
And external conversations are prohibited by the prosecutor and by law.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's where we're at.
That's exactly right.
That's where we're at.
I guess the other question, did you get the SF 400 form for Littleton before you hired him?
You have it, you have it on file.
And did you check any of his background?
For an
With the other-
internship, you didn't have to.
For the municipalities?
For an internship, you didn't have to. We have the SF4 on it.
So you basically didn't have any of his references?
Yes.
Yeah,
We checked it.
Sure did.
yeah, we checked.
And you were satisfied with all that?
Very much so.
I got a question. Since you basically did your due diligence and looked up Chief Littleton and everything else, and he's qualified for the job, can't he just be our chief and we stop all of this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best I've seen so far in this township. I mean, we've been here, what, 11 years? And
We had
I've never
people-
seen a chief on the road before, and, I mean, I drove the speed limit on the way here because I knew he was out there.
We had residents ask us to do more interviews, ask for more applicants, so we thought, okay, we would,
Well, I mean, at this point,
do
I
that.
mean,
Like
he's
you
done
would
a lot
with
for the
any other-
township, and
with
there's
any
some
other
kind of loyalty that we should be pushing.
employee.
As citizens, shouldn't we be
No.
giving at least a little bit of loyalty to him for all that he's done?
You know, the thing is, you know, we pushed and pushed to get this police levy passed, but I think, Dale, you had a no vote in your yard.
No.
The prior police levy, you had a no vote in your yard to vote no on the levy. We had a whole room full of people here a couple nights to get a new levy passed. Then you were on board. We got the levy passed. We should take a little bit of time to get the very best that we can get now that we've finally financed the police department that hadn't been financed in 2003.
And you make a good point, but also, like you said, you know, this gentleman is tickled pink and has never seen a chief like this before and everything that he's done.
And he
So
may end up being the chief.
He may end up being, but that's what I'm saying.
And
You're one person.
We've
this
heard
is a- yeah.
this individual here, we've heard from likewise from a new number of people like you. I mean, so.
I'm glad you brought up the levy. Who's responsible for removing all the signs that are still out there? Whoever put those out there should get rid of them. You know, the levy has passed, it's considered litter now. And there are a lot of.
What I've done is if I've seen them pass it, I've taken several myself.
Right.
So if you see them, grab it.
Well, I got other things to do, I work.
Well, and
for also, you know,
then, are you allowed to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Once the election is over, anybody can collect them.
See, that was a point of contest at one point.
That is a.
And I don't know, I'm like, I'm not gonna touch that.
Once the election is
And say that
over.
I was taking signs.
Yeah, I know. Don't touch mine.
Well,
Yeah.
as good citizens, if you see one of the signs, grab it. take it
If that's
to your
legal to
trash.
do, yeah.
And if
Because it
anybody
does
has
look
some you
pretty
don't want,
bad.
we
Just bring them to me.
we still want them. We're collecting them
Oh,
for
there,
projects.
I
so we
can
will
name,
recycle
I can
them.
name half a dozen right now. Just bang, bang, where-
Every time I see him, I stop.
Piermont's got 3, I believe. You know, there's one right there at, well, I call it a slant road, Brookville, Salem, and Johnsville, Brookville, there's one. And,
Well, they're just out there.
They're all
It'd be a
over,
good idea
yeah.
if we
I think it
cut
would be
them
great if all of it, any of us would do that, including yourselves, if you're seeing.
well,
it,
that's why I
you're not
just said,
picking
I
it
didn't
up.
know if it was legally allowed. Now that I
It
know.
is absolutely legally
And
allowed.
if you need a dumping
20,
zone,
572
11572 Air Hill.
But yeah, 24 hours after the completion of the election, they become litter
Okay.
and can be cleaned up by.
Well, I think it's a good idea that if they like put those out there, they would know where they're at. So it might be a good idea that they would
And
get
garage
those.
sale signs.
I wish we'd have one meeting at a time.
We recycle it.
Yeah, oh, very good. Okay.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Mears,
Yes.
Price,
Yes.
Sim.
Yes.
So if you come home and I drive by your house, I'm gonna go.
Yep, we got a big porch, just pile them on.
No, I'm gonna whiz it
Not
out
sure
there.
where you live, but yeah,
You
there's a
might
number.
get chased by the chickens, but go for it.
They're mostly fell over because it's rained so much in the wind.